All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to break down a strategy that the world's absolute best companies use to stay on top. It's called benchmarking, and honestly, it's one of the most powerful tools you can have in your playbook. So, think about this for a second. If you're already leading the pack, how do you keep getting better? I mean, who do you even look to for that next big idea? It's a real challenge that every single successful organization has to face. So, what's their secret? Well, the answer is benchmarking. But here's what's so cool about it. It's not just about comparing yourself to someone else. It's an active improvement process. You figure out where you are, you go find the absolute best in the world at what you want to do, and then you use those insights to build something totally new and even better. Okay, so to really get our arms around this, we're going to approach it just like a top consulting team would, with a super clear roadmap. First, we'll nail down the core idea. Then, we'll break it into 4 distinct types. We'll walk through the step-by-step process, do a deep dive on the most critical phase, analysis. Then we'll cover the dangers you've got to avoid and wrap up with the one big takeaway you need to remember. So what is this thing really? At its heart, benchmarking is all about learning from the leaders. But here's the twist. Those leaders don't have to be your competitors. In fact, a lot of the time, the most game-changing insights come from looking way outside your own industry to find a truly world-class example of a process you want to nail. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. John Deere and General Motors aren't competing, right? One sells tractors, the other sells cars. But you know what they both do? They both run massive, incredibly complex manufacturing operations. So by studying how GM runs its assembly lines, John Deere can find genius ideas for building its own equipment, all without giving away any competitive secrets. It's brilliant. All right, so to really put this to work, you need a structured way to think about it. Consultants, we love a good framework, especially a MECE one. That's mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. Basically, a clean way to slice the pie. And benchmarking gives us a perfect one. There are 4 different types, and each one targets a totally different part of the business.
Let's break these down real quick. Strategic is the big picture stuff. Think a hospital studying Disney to learn about customer experience. Project focuses on a single initiative, like a tech startup studying how Boeing manages massive projects. Performance is that classic head-to-head comparison on things like price and quality. And process, that gets you into the nitty-gritty, the day-to-day work, like an online store studying Amazon's customer complaint system.
So we know what it is and the different flavors it comes in. Now for the big question. How do you actually do it? This is where the rubber meets the road, where we move from just talking about it to a practical, step-by-step plan for making it happen. The process is really logical. It breaks down into 4 main phases. Step 1, you gotta look in the mirror. You have to map out and truly understand your own process first. No skipping this. Step 2, you look out the window. You find that world-class organization you want to learn from. Step 3 is the deep dive, the analysis. This is where the real learning happens. And finally, step 4 is about action. You take what you've learned and build a new, better model for yourself. Now, out of all those steps, step 3, analysis, that's where the magic is. This is the part that separates the companies that get real results from the ones that just go on a field trip. It's the difference between being a tourist and being an investigator. So let's zoom in here because this is absolutely crucial. And this quote just nails the mindset you need. This isn't some friendly company tour where you get free coffee. It's a forensic investigation. You are there to be a detective, to figure out exactly what makes them so successful. So the investigation starts with a visit. You have to see the process with your own eyes, in its natural habitat. Why? Because a spreadsheet can't tell you about the energy on the factory floor. It can't show you the little informal workarounds that people use to solve problems. You have to be there to really get the full context. While you're there, you start collecting evidence. And you need both kinds. You need the quantitative, the hard numbers, the cycle times, the error rates. But you also need the qualitative, the process maps, the training documents, the stories from the people who actually do the work. You need both sides of the coin to see the whole picture. And finally, you evaluate. You compare their numbers to your numbers. But here's the key. The goal isn't just to see that they're 10% faster. The real goal is to uncover the why. Why are they faster? What specific tool or training or bit of culture allows them to get that result? That's where the breakthrough is. Now look, as powerful as this all sounds, benchmarking is not a silver bullet. And like any advanced strategy, it comes with some serious risks if you're not careful. Any good manager knows not just how to use a tool, but also how it can break. So let's talk about the dangers you have to watch out for. So what's the catch here? Where does this all go wrong? Well, it turns out there are a few classic traps that can turn a great idea into a huge waste of time. Or even worse, send your whole company down the wrong path. Okay, here are the big three. First, poor follow-up. You do all this amazing research, write a beautiful report, and then it just sits on a shelf. No action means no advantage. Second, and this one's sneaky, is duplicating errors. You copy a process you think is amazing, but you don't realize you're also copying all its hidden problems. And third is institutional stagnation. This is when an entire industry starts benchmarking the same leader. Pretty soon, nobody's trying anything new, and real innovation just grinds to a halt. We have covered a ton of ground here. What benchmarking is, the 4 types, the whole process, and the pitfalls. But I want to leave you with one last thing. The single most important idea that this whole concept is built on. It all comes down to that very first step. So let's do a quick thought experiment. This is from a real professional exam. Benchmarking is most difficult to perform on processes that A, are easy to research, B, exist in many industries, C, have a major business impact, or D, have not been documented. What do you think? The answer is D. And that right there is the big takeaway. The absolute foundation of all good benchmarking is self-awareness. You simply cannot learn effectively from somebody else if you haven't taken the time to document and deeply understand your own process first. Before you ever look out the window for answers, you have to start by looking in the mirror. That's the real starting line.